Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Horror Hobby Nation Paranormal. Tonight's guest is June Edwards, or shall I say, good afternoon, June,
Good
since it
afternoon.
is the afternoon where you are. Tonight's guest, guys, I've been reading on June's own site, and there is so much on your site. I mean, I match it on my other phone so I can keep an eye on what I've got. I was just reading it. There is quite a few things that fascinate me that I'm going to go through. Right, so you're a saving relationships one person at a time, psychic medium speaker, a- if I've got this right, a medium coach, a best-selling author. You've got 4 books out, which I've just seen. And later on, I'm going to talk to you about this. Is you've had, I think it's you that's had this. If I get this right, you've had an NDE.
So they call it a near-death experience, but I died and I came back by choice. That's correct.
I've got to ask you because in here it says something that fascinates me about the near-death experience, and it's what happened. But I'm going to ask you now, Jim. Basically, hello guys, welcome. Is what you actually do within the paranormal field, and how you help people from your side of things.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
Is how you help people and how you help. Because I've seen the relationship thing. It's I'm curious how it all works.
Oh, so as far as relationship goes, what I have a 7-week online program called the Relationship Mastery Program. And I developed that about 4 or 5 years ago. And I geared it towards people that were having difficulty with their marriage, whether it was a divorce or a separation, because I figured those were the people that were most incentivized to make the change and do the work and invest in themselves, basically. And what I do is I teach them how energy works. I teach them how to get in touch with their soul and make decisions from their soul, and how to magnetize whatever it is they want into their life through the law of attraction. But the law of attraction, everything in the universe has to stay in balance. So when you learn how to raise your vibration and the law of attraction kicks in, if you don't understand how to balance your energy, you lose it. For every high, there's a low, you'll crash. So I teach people how to balance their energy so that they can maintain the law of attraction and how the universe really works. I unteach them what they think they know and teach them how it really works, how to talk to angels, how to work with angels, how to work with the universe, the hierarchy. And it changes people's lives 180 degrees. I've had people go from the verge of taking their own life to having an amazing life, putting out their own books, owning restaurants. And I had one woman that wanted to get married to the father of her baby. Not only did he propose, but so did 4 other people within less than a year.
Oh, you've seen that on the write-up in one of the reviews. It's on your site, on your website. It was on one of the reviews. I thought that was interesting actually because you actually stated that she had that in months, not years.
Yeah, it was probably less than 6 months. Yeah.
Right, for some, isn't it? So going to the paranormal side now. You're a psychic medium. Now, God, mediums that I've worked with have either been cold cases, um, or I've done places that haven't been investigated yet. We've brought in the history and tried to sort out packs and that. Like when I did the RAF camps here in the UK, we basically built up RAF camp packages so they knew what they were getting into. What do you do with your abilities apart from? Because I know you've worked with a few teams and people as well. It's Have you worked on cold cases? Do you work with people? Where do you go to people's houses, help spirit move on, or
So I've done a little bit of everything, and I basically go where the universe sends me. I put it to you that way. So when my abilities opened up, um, I did not want to work with lower vibrational entities, which you will term as a ghost. And I did not want to work with demonic entities. I wanted to work with people that had gone into the light, basically. So the universe had another plan, all part of my education. So one of the first big ones was a woman kept contacting me because she had a demonic entity in her house. And she lived probably 3 hours from me. And I kept trying to get people to go out and help her, and no one would or could. So I got a paranormal team to come with me that was from the area and film me. And I went in to help this woman get rid of this demon. And I explained to her it was a 3-family. I needed to have access to the entire house. And she assured me that that would be the case. And because it was attacking her family, that was why, she pulled on my heartstrings. And I talked to the other side before I went, because I had never worked with a demon, had never seen a demon before, although I know if heaven exists, hell exists as well.
Yeah.
And I was assured from the other side that I would be protected and that they would go with me. The angels would go with me, which they did. And we went into the house, and I immediately identified for the paranormal team where the hot spots were, like the basement, a bedroom, couple of bedrooms. And they put their little detectors down, and they're little jumping around and going crazy. And as she introduced us to her family, and then I asked them to leave because I didn't want anyone in the house when I'm trying to clear it out. She pulled her son's shirt up to show us the bite marks on his back, and he was getting more as we were standing there. And her mother was mentally ill. She had Alzheimer's. And I think the demon had actually attached to the mother because it was feeding off of her fear first. She could see him. And they were also Spanish. So there was a language barrier there that I was trying to explain. That you can't have fear, literally, because they feed off that. And so I see things that other people don't see. I can see the entities. I see angels. I see energy, because we're all energy. We're not the suit that sits here. We are the soul inside. And I started to go through the house, and the first bedroom, she said that her son tried to sleep in there and he got pulled out of the bed. And they had a horrible smell. So I went into the bedroom, and there was a man in there in his late 20s, early 30s, who had died in there of a drug overdose. And they didn't find his body for 5 days. So that's why the room smelled as bad as it did, because he was basically still haunting the room. And, I spoke with him and asked him if he would go into the light, and he was afraid. He thought he was going to be judged. He knew he'd let his mom down. And I explained to him that he's not going to be judged. I've been there. There's no judging there. It's fine. His mom is actually on the other side and would love to have him there with her. And I was able to get him to move into the light. And as soon as he did, the room, dissipated. The smell dissipated immediately. So then we went into the next room, and she said they kept seeing an old woman in there. And sure enough, there was an older woman in there, spoke Italian, refused to go into the light, refused to acknowledge me. She was fearful of something. I didn't know what at the time. Very old woman. She was like sitting on the bottom bunk of a bunk bed, just kind of crouched down a little bit. And she said, she's not going anywhere, bottom line. So I went into the kitchen, and there was a man pacing back and forth in the kitchen, Italian. And there was a little girl in the closet, crouched down, about the age of 10 or 12. And I talked to the little girl first, and she just kept saying that he wants to kill me. He wants to kill me. And I turned my attention to the guy that was in the room, and I asked him his name, and I said what his name was as it's showing up on their little toy indicator thing that talks the names and stuff pretty much at the same time as I'm telling him what the name is. And he was an Italian immigrant that had come over, and he was a hitman for the mob. And this was actually his daughter that was in the kitchen closet, and she had witnessed him murdering someone. And the guy was like cold as ice. And he's like, yeah, I got to kill her. She saw it. And clearly he did kill her, because she's in the closet as a 10 or 12 year old little girl. And I tried getting him out of the house. out into the light, and he's like, oh, they're going to judge me. I don't know what's going to happen. Now I know he's taken a life and has no remorse. Those people, to my knowledge, are the only ones sitting in hell. Everybody else is in heaven unless they've sold their soul to the devil. If you take a life with no remorse, you go downstairs, you don't go up. So he's asking me what's going to happen. And I was very honest. I said, I have no idea what's going to happen to you. I don't know what's going to happen to you. I'm being honest. But you can't stay here. You need to go into the light. He's like, I'm not going into the light. So, well, you can't stay here. You need to leave. And he did leave the house, but he wouldn't go into the light. And as soon as he left the house, the woman from the middle bedroom came in and got the daughter. It was her granddaughter. She was afraid of her own son in the kitchen. This is why she wouldn't come out. And she got the little girl, and I moved the two of them into the light. So first floor is clear. Now we go into the basement. And the whole basement was full of Irish immigrants from the potato famine. And, you know, spirits gather. So if you've got a haunted house, you've got a lot of spirits. I guarantee it. It's like, you know, kind lights attract. It's just like, you know, I see them everywhere because they know I can see them. It's like they gather. And the basement was full, and the demon was down there. And he was feeding off of their energy, and they were there before he got there. And I told them that, you know, they need to go into the light. They can't stay there. And they're telling me, oh, he told us we'll burn. We can't go into the light. And I'm like, nope, you do not listen to him. I said, I am from the light. I said, I will take you into the light. Your families are there. All your loved ones are there and want you there. And they all, and this demon is like, you know, swearing and just terrible thing. But I had angels with me, literally, and they all went into the light. So we went to the second floor. And as I'm chasing this thing through the house, it's swearing and hissing at me. So I asked the camera crew, I'm like, did you hear that? I said, it's growling at me and swearing. They're like, no, we didn't hear it. I said, see if the recorder picked it up. And sure enough, they stopped, rewound it, and they picked it up on the audio. They could hear this thing growling at me and swearing. So on the second floor, there was another little Italian woman, and she was in the kitchen cooking. And so I went to see her. I said, you don't have to cook anymore. Your family's not here. And she just kind of looked at me and then looked around. And I said, no, they're not here. Your family all went into the light. I said, you need to go to the light because that's where your family is. And she's like, oh, okay. And she just left and went into the light. And then, so we continue chasing this demon around. I'm telling him it's got to leave. And now we go into the attic area. So the house it was an old house, the 3 floors, but the attic still had like rooms. So the attic part was to the right, and there was a bedroom across of it. So we went in the attic portion next, and Italian immigrants were in there. Not as many as were in the basement, but there was probably, I don't know, maybe 24 of them in the attic. And same thing. I told them they need to move on. They need to go into the light. And, they need to just ignore this demon that, their families are in the light. And they all went into the light. Now it ran across the hall and into the room with the closed door. And I had told the woman originally I have to get into everything. And of course, we tried the door and the door's locked. So I'm like, you need to find her. She needs to get the key. So she's like, she goes, it's my daughter's room. She goes, I don't have a key. I said, I told you I need to get in everywhere. It's in this room. She goes, well, I don't have a key. I don't know when she'll be back. She's working. I said, listen, I've done everything I can do. I said, it's in the room. If I cannot get in the room, this is where it's going to stay for now. And all I could do was, try to explain to her, leave her holy water, leave her sage, try to tell her what to do when she gets in the room. But inevitably, I can't get rid of it because I can't get to it at this point, and it's going to stay in there and come right back out at some point. And I talked to every one of them, told them to try not to have any fear because that's what it's building on. And, I did check on her a little bit. And about 2 or 3 months later, it got really bad again, and they moved again. They had moved 13 times in 9 years because of it. And there wasn't really anything else that I could do at that point.
That's silly. You told her to leave the door. No. So is that the only demonic presence you've come across? I mean, I've done
No, I've
two
come across many.
demonic. I've done two demonic clearances, and like you explained, it's horrific what you go through.
So demons are blacker than black, first of all. I consulted on a book from a paranormal writer in Canada. He's written many, many books. And he had sent me some pictures because he was doing a book on a house and a barn. And when they had taken a picture in the barn, they had a full-fledged apparition, a kid's face, literally in the front of the camera. But it looked like a school picture to me. And they wanted to know who the kid was. So I got a full reading off the picture as to who the kid was. He was basically murdered in the barn, in the top of the barn. He had been molested by his uncle. They knew who the family was. They still lived in the town and owned an insurance company, and they were going to go question him. The kid disappeared. They never found the body. So they also had taken a picture in the lower level of the barn, and it showed the little boy in the picture. So he wanted me to see what I was picking up from that. And I'm like, you got a demon in the picture. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, blow the picture up on your computer. You've got a demon in the picture. Off to the left, huge. And there's also, it's not in the picture, you can't see it, but there's a dog. And the dog is protecting this little boy's spirit from the demon that's in this barn. And he goes, wow, that makes a lot of sense. He goes, we were picking up a dog barking on the recording and we couldn't figure it out. That's what they were getting. And the demon was just as black as could be. But that's why nobody noticed it. They were all looking at the little boy. Nobody spots the demon in the picture. So then he sends me another picture of inside the house that's attached to the barn. And he sent me a scribing bowl picture of it. They had a scribing bowl and took a picture to send to me and asked me what I saw. Did not tell me that it had been the home of a sorcerer in the 1600s. And just because they're dead, we are not the suit that sits here. We are the soul that's inside. That sorcerer has more power on the other side than he ever did here. And as I'm describing to him everything that I'm seeing in the scribing bowl, I'm literally getting, I didn't know. I would have had a better protection of, I would have done a salt circle, something. I had no idea. I'm being attacked by this sorcerer. My left eye, I got a sty in my eye. Literally the 5 minutes that I'm talking on the phone with this guy explaining it, my eye is swelling up and closing. And it took a month for it to clear up. And that's what they used to do back in the day, right? Give him a sty in the eye. That's what he did. Yeah. So don't think you can't be attacked.
Hey, I know you can be attacked. I got hospitalized for 3 weeks due to demonic presence. It's amazing when, like you said then, that people concentrate on pictures, but they concentrate on the obvious.
But that's life, isn't it? Everybody misses. I mean, there's angels all around us giving us signs and trying to put us on our path, and people are oblivious to everything that's happening around them.
That's one thing that I've been going through with a few teams myself, actually. I took a picture at 30's Drive in Pontefract in the UK, and it shows a white, what looks like monk robe, basically. So everybody assumed it was the Black Monk. I can't tell you what it is. I still can't to this day. But what everyone forgot, or that didn't realise, is they looked at the obvious. On his left shoulder sat the face of a little boy, clear as day, teeth, nose. And I say to people, don't look for the obvious in pictures. You will miss everything. I'm really bad. I'll take 1,000 photos and it will take me 2 months to go through them all. I am so thorough because lately I've noticed you can miss so much. I mean, even I've missed a few things. I've had people come back and send me my pictures going, you've missed this. This is a person. What are you doing? I'm like,
yeah, it's amazing.
I'm only human. But yeah, it's amazing what people actually miss. But going back to the demonic thing, I've been attacked by a demon through my ex-partner's mum. We didn't know, dabbled in white magic.
There's no such thing.
Or
White
at
magic
least,
is the gate to get to black magic. There's no such thing.
well, this is what I thought was interesting. They said white magic. Now, this is the interesting part. We had this demonic presence going from house to house using mirrors. And we're talking 50 foot apart, the houses are. And we had my ex-partner, me, and her two boys. And then you had my ex-partner's mum and dad. The mum and dad, not an issue. Right, okay. Up at my house, where I was living in the bungalow, bearing in mind, we had my ex-partner's grandmother who passed, her grandfather. They all walked the house. We had no issues with this. We were used to door handles flicking in front of us. That's normal for us. To me, that's normal now. But many years ago, people look at you and go, "You're weird." End of. But this presence was horrific. It didn't feed off fear. It fed off anger.
Anger and fear are the same thing. They're the same
And
thing.
it was ridiculous. Yeah. It basically took me out first. I was hospitalized for 3 weeks. I thought it was a holiday, to be honest, but everybody else, you know. But it attacked and it attacked. We brought a friend in, and he took pictures of this spirit, like you said, again, pure black. Black as death, black as black, basically.
Yeah, it's dark, yeah.
Using a mirror in her parents' bedroom. And this thing had no head. But what we also discovered at this moment in time is where we were living it was an old concentration camp.
Oh.
And outside roamed over 500 lost souls. And they had no idea they were gone. We're talking kids, adults, grandparents. It was horrific. And the worst thing about it is we had a freshwater lake behind, literally 10 foot from the house, and pylons going across this thing. So it was all coming through. For some of the stuff I've seen in that place, it did make me think, but this one entity, I won't say it was demonic, but I will say it was a very, very dark entity. And there's another one where we did in South Wales. We went to a lady's house, Mrs. P, we called her. Basically, her friend was suffering financially. Now, I didn't even know this could even be possible, but this woke me up to paranormal and how this all works. This lady basically is suffering from financial issues, and Mrs. P was her business partner. The lady in question sold Mrs. P's soul to the devil, apparently, as offer of marriage for her to gain financially. So Mrs. P knew nothing of this. She had like a mystic shop that had stones, protection, everything. Well, she lost that to the lady, her business partner. 6 months after that, her husband died of cancer. And then 3 months after that, she was taken for £25,000 in a scam. So we went down to see her. She told us about everything. When we saw her, she was very frail, pure as white as a ghost, very, very scared. Now, I'd never dealt with a demonic presence, and this was demonic. I'm an investigator, so as you said, with equipment, I can go in and go, bang, that there is cold, that's a cold spot, that's a cold spot. There's something there and there's something there. That's exactly what I did. I went through the whole house. Our medium, Kivamush, is also an exorcist and demonologist as well as a priest. He came in with us and he backed up everything I said. What I didn't realise was this lady had actually been sexually assaulted by this thing. And it was, this is where I start to find things hard, how this all comes together, how it all works. But in her bedroom, we had a video, and right above her bed is a black shadow. This is where I'm starting to, this was actually probably my first year in doing paranormals. We're talking 7 years ago. And I'm starting to see things that I didn't think were possible. You know, we've gone into other rooms, we found other shadows, everything else. But her husband died. He was an alcoholic, died of cancer, but she had his ashes outside. Now, in this like little portable area where you sit outside, like a conversion sort of thing, she'd done scrying, but wasn't told how to protect herself. So, of course, it was open. She went back to the church and said, look, I've done this, this has happened. And they said to her, we're not interested, it's not our issue. So she'd been dealing with this for over 20 years, this lady.
Wow.
So her husband couldn't get in because of what was in this conversion bit, because of what they brought through there, which is a mother and child. So they wouldn't let him in. Then she had all these other spirits going around the house. When we got to the last day, everything started to hit me because it was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I watched Mickey on the sofa sleeping, and he got pulled off the sofa. Now, I've never seen that happen before, but he literally got launched off the sofa, and he's a big bloke like I am. And he literally just got back on the sofa, looked at me and went, what? And fell back to sleep, so I thought nothing of it. But as soon as morning came, everything changed. It was like the Battle of Britain. You knew there was going to be a big fight in there. What I found out later is the spirit that was in there was able to split itself into many different personalities. I've got 4 books for 4 years of her life that she wrote in, and it's described over 27 different ways she was offered to the devil to be married. One of them that sticks out for me is she's in a pure white dress with Japanese girls going down in one line and soldiers and that. Apparently the devil's not there yet, but these soldiers just come down with swords, take their heads off, and she's bathing in their blood just before she's being offered up in the ceremony. I've got the painting that she painted, the very first painting of her when she showed me what the spirit looked like. And it looks like a boy and a girl, that's it. To me, when you said about the spirit, your demons, what I couldn't understand at that moment in time is how it could come across as so many different people, because she was talking to many people. She said she spoke to about 20 different people in that house, but she was on her own.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot more than one demon.
Phenomenal for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was much more than one demon. It's like I said, it's, they congregate no matter what it is, anything lower vibrational. So the ghosts that are stuck here can't move any faster than you and I. They're that vibration level. But when you start getting into demonics, same thing. I mean, okay, so everybody saw the episode of Ghost, right? When there's a name for them in Hindu. I cannot remember the name. When they come out of the sewer, the black shadows.
Yeah.
And they grab them and they pull them to hell. So, I mean, I saw those things in my mother's hospital room when she was dying. I call them minions, but they're demonics, and they're literally looking for souls. And I saw a bunch of them going around, the side of her bed, going around the wall, and had to call on an archangel to get them out of there. But they travel in packs. Anything demonic, they're in packs. So I wouldn't be surprised if she had a whole pack of them there.
But it was just amazing. But when we got rid of them all, it was like,
it's amazing that you're able to get rid of them all, because that's not an easy feat. It's really not. I mean, I have people that come to me that I can see they have a demonic attachment, because when I look at them, it looks like they've got a dark shadow piggybacking around their neck, is what it looks like to me when I see them. But they travel in packs. I mean, I know a friend of mine that had, he got his mother's house when his mother died. And him and his wife moved into it. And every time they went into the basement, his wife didn't want to go into the basement. They kept seeing this dark thing, this blackness. It was a demon in the corner of the basement, and they would try to avoid it. But then this thing ended up possessing him big time. And I was amazed that he was actually able to fight it off. So spirits, alcohol used to be called spirits, right? For a reason.
Yep.
Because it lowers your vibration and allows these things to get into you. And they used to hang out at the bars all the time. He was a heavy drinker. And he came home drunk, and this thing literally possessed him, clearly. And he knew it and he felt it. And he tried to fight it off himself. He was in bed for a week. His wife thought he was going to die, literally. And he fought it off. He was strong enough to fight it off. But he immediately went to the Catholic Church. And he said, listen, there's something in my house. I need to have you come and bless my house. There's something in my basement. It attacked me. So the guy asked him where he lived. He goes, oh, is so-and-so your mother? He goes, yeah. He goes, she passed away. I moved into the house. He goes, I know the house. He says, I used to come out and bless that house for her every month because you have a demon in your basement. And the Catholic priest that comes out couldn't get rid of this demon. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't strong enough. Maybe he just blessed the house and keep it in the basement. I don't know. I mean, they're all trained to do it. Some are better than others. It's like anything else in life. But if you're fearful at all, you're not going to be able to overcome it.
No, totally get you. Someone's just asked,
do I ever feel scared or overwhelmed? No. And I don't have fear. You know, I died when I was 27. I've been to heaven. I came back here by choice.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, when you think of so I'll tell you the story quickly. And then, so I hurt my back at 22. I had to have surgery. I put it off for 5 years because I just knew I was going to die. And sure enough, the night before my surgery, they did an MRI test with a contrast dye. And as soon as they gave it to me, I died. And everybody's, experience is a little bit different, but always very similar. And I immediately went to heaven. And I could see everything that was happening below. I could hear everything happening in the hospital. But I was getting a life review, which I've learned since that less than 10% of the people that have an NDE get to where I was or have a life review. And it was like sitting in the front seat of an IMAX theater and literally watching a movie of everything that was wonderful that ever happened in my life. And then I heard that it was not my time. I could stay if I wanted to, or I could come back. And it was a very difficult decision because for me, it was an overwhelming sense of love. And what I've learned since is that the two things you take with you is knowledge and all of your feelings, not just love. But I remembered I had 2 children, and that was the biggest reason that I decided to come back this time and that I wanted to be there for them. And I hadn't had my 3rd one yet. So I did come back for my kids. That was the only reason I came back, or I would have stayed. And when you think of quantum physics and the speed of light is 300 million miles a second. My soul went into the light at that speed. That's an extremely high vibration. And then it came back into my body at that speed. So that's what I attribute the fact that my abilities are what they are, and that I can connect instantly, and I can go back and forth to heaven, to the 5th dimension at will. And all the information that I've obtained, for the most part, I've obtained my education from the other side. They're constantly teaching. They're constantly doing things to teach me things. So no, I never have fear. I know that I am protected. I know that I have angels around me constantly. And I trust that any situation that they put me into is for my education, for my highest and best, and to help someone else.
Hedge just gone like that. By the way, I had to ask, because when it said, most people say when they have an NDE, I mean, my NDE was really weird. Mine was tunnel vision. And I started to think it's what looked like blackness all around me. But I could see everything still, but it was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, like my eyes were closing. That's what it was like, but it wasn't. My eyes were wide open. It's weird. I can't describe it.
Maybe your soul is just starting to leave your body, because what happens if it's not your time to die, for the most part, a lot of times your soul will just kind of jump out of your body. Like if there's a car accident coming, your soul jumps out of your body before that impact, because they don't want your soul to feel that. You take your feelings with you. Okay. My brother was in a very bad car accident when he was 16, and he thought he died, but he didn't. His soul jumped out, and he stood on the sidewalk. His soul was on the sidewalk watching everything until the paramedics came and were able to take him out of the car. And then his soul went back into his body. My girlfriend was hit by a deer through the side window. And she thought, she's a devout Catholic, she thought she did something wrong and couldn't go to heaven because she saw the deer that hit her. She saw the deer's soul go into heaven, into the light, and her soul was stuck on the roof, the headliner of the car, until the paramedics came. And then she went back into her body. But they weren't dead. It's your soul jumping out. So your soul is way too big for your body. Some of your soul is in your body. Some of it is over your body that people talk about seeing an aura. And the majority of your soul is actually in the lowest level of heaven, that fifth dimension. And it orchestrates all the timing of the events that happen in your life. And it also holds the knowledge of all of your reincarnations. So when you meditate or you can get in touch with your soul and get out of your head, you're tapping into not just the soul that's in your body, but the soul that's in heaven and the knowledge that the rest of your soul has. So like when my mom was dying, she knew I wanted to see her soul leave her body. And most of her soul was already gone. And there was just, excuse me, just enough of her soul left in her body for her to take a breath every 3 minutes. Time it. See if you can even hold your breath for 3 minutes. She took a breath
10 seconds.
Every 3 minutes. She took a breath, just enough to keep her body alive. And she wanted to die. She died at the same age, the same day as my father, 1 year apart. There are no accidents. She was holding out and waiting until I went over and sat her on the bed and said, listen, Mom, it's time. You got to go. And I literally, I saw her soul leave. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, did I just see what I saw? Because I can see energy. So I saw it leave through the top of her head. And I'm waiting for the next breath, and it never came. So I rang the nurse to come and check, and she had passed. So I did get to see the last of her soul leave her body.
Now that you've mentioned the soul leaving the body, I don't know, you might be the best person to ask this. Astral projection.
Mm-hmm. So that's cool. I love to do that. I love to do that. So a lot of people do it at night when they're dreaming, because when you go to sleep at night, we're in 3D. Your vibration actually rises when you go to sleep at night, and you go into 4D, which is the dream state. And then you have 5D, which is the lowest level of heaven. So if they want to visit you and you're not paying attention during the day or meditating to get in touch with them or hear them, when you're asleep at night, they'll visit you. And you know it's a visit, not a dream, because it feels real. You wake up right away and you remember everything. That's a visit. So by the same token, as your soul is in that dream state, more of it's leaving your body at night, you can astral project anywhere you want. You can go visit people that are alive or people that are on the other side when you go to in your dream state at night. However, if you learn how to meditate properly, you can do it when you're awake and in a meditation.
No,
oh my God, it's amazing. I've flown over 15th century Europe.
no.
It was just amazing. And I mean, I astral project all the time. If I need to, somebody wants me to, tap into their house or something,
Is that remote? That's remote viewing, isn't it?
What's that?
That's remote viewing, isn't it?
It's really not remote viewing. When you call it remote viewing, but what does that actually mean? How are you seeing it? Your eyes can't see it from here. Your soul has to go there. So you're astral projecting a part of your soul there to be able to give you the information and send it back, because it's energy and we are all just receivers. This is all we are. We're receivers of the energy. It's like being a radio station. Okay. Everything's frequency. You can't get the radio station in unless you're on the right frequency, right? We're magnets. Yeah. Everything we attract into our life is on the same frequency as us. If you want to attract something different, raise your frequency. You'll attract something at a higher frequency. But when you're remote viewing, you're literally sending a portion of your soul there to see and send it back to you. That's what you're doing.
Okay, so my other question is, you've been on the other side, you deal with that side of life, I'll say. So
deal with what?
Easy. You deal with that side of life as in, you deal with the other side, basically.
Mm-hmm.
In your own words, for you, I've got to word this. what would you say happens after this life?
You lose your body. That's it. You're the exact same person on the other side as you are here. You just don't have a body. That's all. So if you go,
you're still living in that.
You just don't have a body. It's everything you are without a body. Close your eyes. That's you.
All right. What I mean is, are we still walking, in your own opinion, are we still walking the earth as such?
So it works this way. So for instance, if I'm working on a missing person case, okay?
Yep.
If they have not gone into the light and they're dead, I can't tell unless they tell me, because their energetic vibration is lower vibration, just like a human. It's the same until they go into the light. Once they've gone into the light, I pick up on that higher vibration, and I know they've gone into the light and they've passed.
So I'm just reading comments coming through. I'm like that.
So, the ghosts that are stuck here, that low vibration, they can't move any faster than a human being. They'll get into your car if they got to go somewhere and hit your ride.
Oh, please don't.
That's what they do. I tell everybody, I got a rosary hanging from my rearview mirror. They will get in your car and they will hop to the next destination if they got to go somewhere. Once they've gone into the light at 300 million miles a second, they can travel very quickly all over the place. They come and visit you. They'll be in your house to say hi, whatever. And as soon as you call their name, they're there instantaneously, because they can be there that quickly and they don't want to be forgotten. And when you call them, they come. It's that simple. As soon as you think about somebody, they're there, except if they're a ghost and have not gone into the light. Those are the ones that can't travel quickly. But they're the same as they were when they were alive. If you were a jerk here, you're a jerk on the other side. You don't miraculously change into a nice guy. It's true.
I better start changing my habits then. It's a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How come? You have to bear with me with this, because I have asked so many people about this. Is obviously we can see animals, we can see humans. Obviously, I see shadows. I get a lot of shadow people, but how come we don't see things like dinosaurs or further back? I don't understand how we can only see people and animals and nothing like dinosaurs. Surely they roamed the earth once.
No, I've never asked to bring a dinosaur through. I couldn't tell you. I've never asked to bring one through. I do see aliens. I've seen aliens.
Have you?
Yeah. So when I was in training to do meditation originally, as I trained for 1.5 years before I did anything, because I needed to learn how to turn this ability on and off. I didn't know how. And I was in a training for meditation, and I came out of it, and everybody talked about their experience, and everybody's like, "You were in the Akashic Record Room." I'm like, "Okay, never heard of it. What's that?" Where I was at, it was beautiful. It was amazing. It's the 5th dimension. It's the lowest level of heaven again, which I know now. I didn't know then. And it's almost, it's all white. It's beautiful. It's almost gothic, except for where the books are. It's like a spiral that just goes down. And the keeper of those records is a Palladian, which I never heard of them either. I described what the person was: tall, purple. I've never seen his face. I've never looked up that high, and I've never seen his arms, because he keeps them under a cape. He wears like a cape over but he's cylindrical. And they're like, "Oh, you saw a Palladian." I'm okay. I don't know what that is. But I can get back there at will now. I know how to get there. And when I asked him, where was I? He's like, "Oh, you're in the Hall of Knowledge." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm all about knowledge. Tell me more." And he gave me my book, and I was able to go into a side room with my book. And when I opened it again, it was like an IMAX theater. It just played out in front of me. And I was just so in awe. I mean, I didn't even know what to look at or what to ask, but I was looking at my book of life. And since then, I actually did a reading for a woman who'd been abducted many times, and she wanted to know why she keeps getting picked up. And I don't know, who do I ask? So I went and asked the Palladian that I know that guards the Akashic Record Room for me. And he explained that she keeps getting abducted because she, first of all, is not following through with what she's supposed to be doing here, number one, and she keeps forgetting things. So they have to keep on downloading more information to her for what she's supposed to be doing. They actually taught her a completely different energetic mode, whole healing modality of energy, which is completely different than we know. And she's teaching little groups of 5 or 6 people. I'm like, no, that's not enough. You have to be able to put this out in a book format so that you can teach millions of people, not 5 or 6 at a time. And you're not writing it down, and you're not following through, and you keep forgetting things. So they have to keep picking you up and, giving you the information again, basically, is the reason. So if you do it properly, they won't keep picking you up.
It's fair dues, isn't it, though? So, you mentioned you've done cold cases.
Yeah.
I've done cold cases. They're not pleasant at all, by all means. Obviously, you can't release certain details, so I wouldn't expect or ask you to release certain details. But what's the hardest one you've worked on?
Probably a missing person that didn't want anyone to know that he had passed. He didn't want his family to know he had passed. And he didn't go into the light. So again, I thought he was still alive. He had the same energy as a living person. And I think we spent 5 months, and he just kept giving me places that this guy had worked at his entire life. Literally, he's showing us the factory, he's showing us this. And they were in areas that were at least an hour away from where he was at. And he showed me that he got there by hopping into a tractor trailer truck to get there. So, he did that as a spirit because he wasn't alive. And when they found his body, I called him out on it that, listen, you've passed, what's going on? He's like, well, they weren't ready, but he also hadn't gone into the light. So he was still lower vibrational. So his family, I was out there looking with him too. And his family came to my house after, when they found him, and we called on him, and I had him go into the light, and he came back immediately. And he said they weren't ready. They weren't ready to know that I had passed. And they both, his wife and his daughter both agreed they weren't ready. They wouldn't have been able to handle it. After we did all the looking and some time had passed, they were able to handle it. And his biggest thing was that he regretted I didn't know they weren't married. He regretted not marrying her and giving her a wedding ring was his biggest regret, which I didn't know they weren't married. But yeah. That was a tough one, but it taught me the difference between, not being able to tell if they've passed if they don't want to tell me. He did not want us to know.
So have you dealt with the grisly side of it?
I have, but I have an agreement because you're always in control, and they are not allowed to show me any blood and gore. So, for instance, I had a family come to me that the uncle had been murdered, and they wanted to know who murdered him. And, he showed me the entire scene in the bar, and they followed him out. They stabbed him. They robbed him. They threw his clothes in a dumpster, but they didn't show me any of the blood and gore. They just showed me very sterile what happened, which is fine. And the only other one too was, I brought through someone who had accidentally beheaded himself with a chainsaw, and it was the same thing. He was able to show me what happened, but no blood and gore. Yeah.
Accidentally.
Yeah. And the mother thought that she caused him to commit suicide. The cops said it was suicide. And 45 years had gone by, and this poor woman had gone to see many, many mediums to try to talk to her son, and no one was able to bring him through until I did. But it was an accident. Yeah, he had been watching a TV show where they were juggling chainsaws. He was manic depressive and on medication. They had changed his medication, and he went down into the barn, started up a chainsaw, and tried to juggle it, and it slipped, and it severed his head off. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. That's an understatement. I feel for his mum.
Yeah, I just felt that. So had somebody been able to help her 45 years earlier, she would have had a very different life.
But would it have been an easier life than what she would have had now?
Yeah, because she blamed herself and thought she caused him to kill himself.
See, I've dealt with people like that before, and even though you help them, they still can't accept.
No, I brought him through, and it actually helped him too, because he was in complete, he was suffering on the other side as much as she was here, because he knew what it had done to her life, thinking that she caused it. And he had such remorse, and he was so sad. He wasn't even able to come visit her in her dreams, nothing. He didn't even want to come up and talk to me then. I had to have his uncle drag him out of a crowd and bring him up.
That's mad.
It was very
So,
sad.
going on staying on cold cases, have you dealt with children cases?
With children?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have done a few. I had when I was first starting out, I had an employee of mine wanted to talk to his 10-year-old little sister who had been murdered back in the 80s. And she's one of the only people I haven't been able to bring through. I couldn't bring her through. So her family came through to tell me that she reincarnated almost immediately after she was murdered, which is rare.
Wow.
I've found that we reincarnate every 350 to 400 years on the average, but there's exceptions to everything. She came back right away. Wow. And then I've had a couple of missing person cases that were children that, I gave the information to the family. The family took it to the police department and they were found. Yeah.
It's horrible. I'm currently on one, but I'm having issues with it still being currently active after 50 years. Ooh. Which is very unusual to be still open case. It's usually cold, but no, this is still active, which is really weird. But she came through for us during an investigation. We went to a school. I was taken to a school to do an urban explore. Now, all the security guards and the workmen that we spoke to there and then had all said they refused to go in one part of the school. I was like, well, we've got to check this out. So we've gone down into this, I can't even say basement yet. It's the lower ground floor, one corridor straight through, one end to the other. You're talking 400 meters tops. There's nothing there. It's just very dark. As in, something's there, but it's overshadowing something else. It wasn't till we started investigating, we started to get things come through. I mean, I had cat balls in a line, and you'd see them individually go, like somebody was walking past them, all up in a line. I've got something come through on the EVP, which I posted on my site ages ago. But what I didn't realise was that there's also like an underground bit as well. And when I found out all about it, I started to investigate, so obviously start to do the research of what's actually happened. Now, unfortunately, her father passed. But her father had spoken to her killer that morning. And he didn't even know nothing about it. I spoke to a seer in Australia, so I've had a lot of feedback with all of this. He knocked her out at the bus station, took her, put her in the car. He basically raped her, beat her, and strangled her with her own clothing, and left her on view in front of, I think you call them freeways, but we call them like motorways. And she was on view at the age of 16, just left there completely naked. When I got into this a bit more with a few other seers and mediums, they're saying that this guy's done this more than once, and yet nobody's ever reported or caught him. It's very hard for me to deal with because the guy's in his 80s now. I have got a clue where to start with him. I know where she is, but she came through. And I've never had that before, ever with an investigation where somebody's come through like that, asking for that sort of help. And it just sticks in my mind that,
she's stuck here, clearly. She hasn't gone into the light if she's coming through that.
I just haven't got a clue who to ask. to
I
bring
would,
to send her through or anything.
yeah,
It's
I would
really
try,
hard.
I would, I would try to move her into the light. That's what I would try to do.
How would I do that myself, being that
So you can, her family is still here, right?
I believe her mum is, but we're not sure.
Okay. So you know her name anyways.
Oh yeah,
So
well,
yeah, you have her name. So you can let her know. Just talk to her and say, listen, doesn't matter what happened to you here. That was just part of your learning experience being here. You really need to go into the light to be with your family. Your mom's there, your dad's there. They love you. They want to be with you. They want to see you again. So you really need to move into the light and just move her into the light. I've moved a lot of them, and a lot of them don't know they're dead. That's the problem.
yeah, I totally
Um,
agree with you.
yeah, I've found a lot of them, especially if they're younger girls. Um, no matter what it is that they died from, whether it was a sickness, whether it was traumatic, it's like they weren't expecting it type of thing. Excuse me. And they just want to find someone to help them, bottom line. Um, and when you can just explain to them that, listen, your family's not here anymore. I had a little girl that was like 8 or 9 years old, and she was haunting a half dozen places. And she kept every female, mommy, mommy, mommy. She thought they were a mommy. And I call on the family. You don't even have to know their names. I didn't know. I knew her last name because the farm had been, named Wood Farm, and that was the side street. So I knew, and I just said, listen, any entities that are related to this soul, this girl, you need to help bring her into the light. And sure enough, both a mother and father came down, and a brother who was apparently died younger as well, because he came through about the age of 12 or 15. All three of them came down and brought her off into the light. So you can do it. You can absolutely do it yourself. You just have a conversation with her and tell her that she doesn't need to stay here anymore. It's beautiful on the other side. Her family is all waiting for her. They love her. They miss her. They want to be with her, and move her into the light. And they'll go. 90% of the time, they'll go.
It's really sad, though. It's hard to deal with it. The hardest part about doing this job for me is the fact that there is children involved. No
And if
matter
this,
how they've gone.
yeah, and a lot of them might be afraid, because if there is something demonic around that's feeding them off of them, and you just said that there was another level there, and there's water. So demonics travel on water. Basically, that's how they move through. I had a house that had a sump pump in the basement that it was coming out of, and they had some drainage system that went from the top of the street all the way down. So it went under all of these yards and all these houses, and everyone that had a sump pump had access to their house, and the demon was in their house, and it was causing problems in the marriage and feeding off of the anger between the two of them. It was terrible. But if there's something there that's scaring her and threatening her that's demonic, you can ask her that too. If there's something scaring you, you pay no attention to that. It won't hurt you. You need to just go into the light and move her on. You can absolutely do it. Absolutely, you can do it. And there's nothing better than knowing, because you'll know, so again, you're using a lot of different meters to pick up on that energy, but just like I'm sure you felt the cold spot. The cold spot is a lack of energy. There's no energy there. That's why it's cold. Okay. Learn to feel the differences, and you'll feel when there's an entity there. You'll feel if it's a good entity, just like when you walk into a room, right? Everybody's walked into a birthday party and felt that high energy, and walked into a funeral and felt that low energy. So just pay attention to the feeling of that energy, and you'll know what's around you and where it is. And the more you train yourself to see it, you'll start to see it. You got to get out of your head. You got to get out of your head, and then you'll start to see it.
Can try that out. Definitely try. Well, thank you, June. It has been a pleasure. Hopefully, I can get you on in the second part of the year. I have bright ideas, and unfortunately, I've managed to secure another 30 guests today alone.
That's wonderful.
That's wonderful. I am absolutely rammed with guests, and it's it's all sorts. People that have bought houses that are haunted, that haven't been able to deal with things. They watch people like yourselves when we do these interviews, and they're like, "Yeah, she's got a point there. We can do this. We'll try that. If that doesn't work, we'll go there." And at the last resort, we just go someone like you.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to move. It's like I've had people contact me that live in large condominium complexes that used to be old factories. And you know how many people and how many children die in factory accidents? And they've just moved, they haven't left. They're moving through the building, and there's no way I can get access to an entire building of apartments. There's no way. You can try to protect your little space so that they don't come in with some blessed statues and crosses and things like that. Keeps them at bay, but some of them will still come walking through. And yeah, sometimes in that situation, I would never move into a big condo, a big factory for that reason. You can't control it. You just can't get rid of them all. But you have to protect your space. I tell everybody, even in their own house, make sure every room you've got something blessed, a cross, a statue, an archangel, something. So if they're coming in off the street, they see that and they're demonic, they're just going to walk right back out.
Got nothing.
Get some.
Yeah, I'm going to have to now. You said that. I'll have to now. Well,
I
you anyway.
Go on an investigation without wearing a blessed cross, having a cross, a small Bible, and holy water.
I've got the Bible.
Get holy
don't wear
water.
crosses.
Yep, wear a cross, holy water.
I don't wear crosses.
Carry a cross, all of that. Yep. They're afraid of God. They're afraid of God. If they're demonic, they're afraid of God, and they'll run.
I'm going to have to try that. I haven't been on one for a while, though. But thank you anyway. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, I'd like to hopefully get you back in the second half of the year, catch up with you more. Obviously, I know you've got a lot on as well at the moment. So yes, thank you, June, for coming on.
You're very welcome. And they can go to my website, juneedward.com, and they can schedule me if they want more information. There's a free webinar they can sign up for, and they can get copies of all of my books, which also teaches them mediumship and psychic development as well.
Guys, I'd seriously consider having a look at that as well. Like I said, I was on it earlier and I learned a few things. I hadn't learned anything about you up until 10 to 8, thinking, what am I going to say? And I went on a page and boom, there it all is for me. So there you go. Thank you, June.
You're very welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.